Okay, the next item is a proposed, there's a public hearing and opportunity to comment on City Council Order 2017-21. It's actually a zoning amendment. And notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5. The Quincy Planning Board will hold a public hearing on April 12, 2017, on or after, obviously 8:47 in the first floor Boards and Commissions Room, Quincy City Hall, 1305 Hancock Street, Quincy, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to give interested parties the opportunity to comment on Council Order 2017-21, proposing changes to the City of Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 2.0 districts, Subsection 2.1.1, General Section 4.0 dimensional regulations, Subsection 4.3.6 exceptions to yard regulations, Section 10.0 definition dwelling. The proposed amendment would replace the selected language as follows. In Section 2.0, Residence B, single family, two family, and three family. In Section 4, 2, Residence B district and Residence B district, no side yard shall be less than 15 feet. In Section 10, add three-family dwelling means a building designed for occupancy as a residence for three families, each occupying a single dwelling unit. Okay, it's a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Chris Pappas. I live at 146 Huckins Avenue in Quincy. I've been here before the board in the past, and I had plans for Residence B, which were approved. And I think this board does a very, very thorough job in vetting any of the plans that come before this board. And I do not see any reason as to why the ordinance would need to be changed. I mean, the ordinance would come about and change Residence B to be only up to three families. Like I said, the density is always considered. The plan as it looks, whether it fits the neighborhood or not, all of those things are definitely considered by this board. And I would be, as a private citizen, I would be against having this ordinance go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the proposed zoning change?
Thank you. John Rutherford, 62 Ramall Road. I sort of agree with the previous person. We definitely need to look. I've stood up here many times saying, like, there's something wrong with the zoning code, there's something wrong with the zoning. I feel there's something wrong with business C zoning, with that little paragraph that we got afterwards that says, you know, 500 feet per dwelling unit. There needs to be things that say, like, you can't go more than 50% more of what's already there, you know, or, you know, something. This doesn't really make any sense, because what if a property has an acre compared to a property that has only 5,000 square feet? The one that has the 40,000 square feet, they should be able to develop more units, you know? And then if you had a, you know, a 2-unit that expands to maybe a 3-unit, that would be like a 50% thing. I mean, our zoning thing really needs to be changed and overhaul the whole thing, not just one piece at a time. The moratorium's a different thing. You know, if you want to do a moratorium, that's, you know, up to the board, but...
That's the next item, John.
Okay, but I mean, I don't even understand. I looked at Council Palmucci's things, the table of dimensions, you know, it says like Y, some things say PB, I think PB means planning board, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, my question would be this, let's say you do pass this change. Does the zoning board still have the right to grant the variance to allow someone to do something?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, it's kind of like you're basically changing the rules for everybody and making it more restrictive on mom and pop who have owned multifamilies their whole lives in Quincy, and you're letting people come in and doing whatever they want in Business C, and like, you know, the rule I would like to see is absolutely no development in industrial zone. Industrial zones were not meant to have any development. And so just say, no, you cannot develop in an industrial zone ever. You can't even ask for a variance because it's an industrial zone. Like that.
You're talking no residential.
No residential and industrial. Like, we don't even have anything in the zoning that says what the residential requirements are for industrial.
It isn't allowed.
Because, well, we're doing it now.
Well,
We've been giving
The
variances.
general laws of the Commonwealth provide an opportunity for anybody to seek a variance or a special permit.
No, but I'm saying that this board, I kind of feel that the city councilors, I heard Councilor DeBoner say at the last meeting that this is an election year and it's a lot of posturing and stuff and whatever. And the bottom line is that it all needs to be overlooked. There's, you know, business B is just one of many different zoning things. To say that, you know, if you look at how many properties are in business B, not business B, I mean residential B, there is a lot, and it's spread out, but some areas are more dense than other areas. So let's say if you did say yes to this tonight, would that take effect?
No, the council's the only one, we only have a recommendation in this process. The council's the only one that can approve or disapprove a zoning change.
Oh, okay, so this is
With or without a planning board recommendation.
So they don't even need your recommendation?
Well, we're advisory, it's written into the state law.
And it's not binding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I guess I would really like to know how you guys feel about this. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Scott, you want to speak?
I have a question.
All right, Member Barrett.
Perhaps I'm slow on the uptake, but I don't understand what the benefit of this that's been articulated. So if somebody could explain to me what the argument is to vote yes on this, I'd appreciate it.
Well, unfortunately, the author isn't here, so.
And I feel like it puts us in a weird position
It does.
to have to say whether we approve or something or not when it's just changes to a very large piece of legislation and there's no
We have
no
to give a
background.
recommendation?
I'm sorry?
We don't have to give a recommendation, right?
The council can await a recommendation from the board, failure for the board to act, and I can't remember the number of days. I want to say, I think it's 20 from the date of the public hearing. Then they can move forward. If indeed it's 20 days, if that has not expired, then they can't. But whether we make a positive or a negative recommendation, they can move forward.
I mean, I feel like there's little desire to really get our approval or recommendation if nobody's here advocating for or against it to us.
I agree with your comments about what are we voting. All we're giving is
All right, well,
a short sheet of what's going to be inserted into the current language.
let me close the public hearing, okay, and then, because I think staff can shed some light on
Yeah, I have it in the business
the
item.
recommendation. So I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Discussion, all those in favor? Aye, okay. Mr. Stevens.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, planning board members. So it would appear the attempt on this zoning amendment would be to limit multifamily to 3-family units. It also would appear that there's an attempt to try to increase setbacks, you know, but as the board has probably seen, that a lot of our cases require dimensional relief. So you know, this was an interesting one when it came through. And thankfully I've been with the city long enough to remember the last moratorium that was actually implemented was back in 2007. And at that time, the city had hired, or the planning department had hired a urban design firm, Goody Clancy Associates. And I believe in the last meeting, you all received a copy of this Residence B design study. In addition to that, that was dated January 2008. In addition, you should have also received a spreadsheet identifying the 27 Res B projects this board's approved since this report. And we also put together different graphs on some of the details of those projects. You know, really quick sitting here, you know, those 27 Res B projects, 4 of them, including 57 Quincy Short Drive tonight, were greater than 10 units. So if there was an argument that it's super high density on Res B. You know, there's a few here, 4 of them out of 27 in the last 10 years. But that means there was 23 that was all under 10 units. So I think the other one you saw tonight was Intervale Street. And I believe my comments was that one started at 7 units. And because that was internal, we were able to work with that developer prior to you guys seeing anything, or prior to this body seeing anything, to try to fit that project into that neighborhood a little bit better, you know, dealing with roof line. And that's what a lot of this report does. I'm not sure that this board ever formally adopted these Res B guidelines at the time. It is something that I use, and I think still has value. In fact, there was a series of zoning recommendations that the Goody Clancy folks had recommended. I believe it was the end of the city council session, so none of those in 2008, 2009 were ever implemented. However, Chairman Mead, I know you were part of the zoning task force in 2011.
I've been in several.
Yes. All of those recommendations were actually incorporated in the recodification of the city zoning code. So once I started sifting through a lot of this information, I felt that as a planner in the department and as a board, you know, charged with reviewing these cases, I feel as though we have those tools already, you know, in our tool belt to deal with, let's face it, redevelopment. And, you know, to jump ahead on the second more public hearing, which is the moratorium, this board also was part of the review of the Quincy Housing Production Plan. And I jumped into this, and there's one number in here that I've come across it before, but I knew this was the most recent number. 82% of Quincy's housing stock was built prior to 1978. Now, 1978 is a big year because prior to 1978, you could use things such as lead paint or asbestos in housing. So that was really a demarcation point in the types of housing stock that not only Quincy but throughout the state. So 82% of our housing stock is built prior to 1978. I believe any city, any urban area should always encourage you know, the demolition of an existing house that has not been kept up, that maybe contains hazardous materials. I always think they should promote demolition and redevelopment of a new development that fits into the character of that neighborhood. So as it comes around to the moratorium, I believe we should not, you know, enact the moratorium. I think that could be harmful to the residential development that's occurring in the city, you know, from one end to the other. And as far as the changes to the Res B, I believe the tools were already in place, and it sort of, I think what Chairman Mead mentioned is maybe there's a bigger zoning question that needs to be asked, and not this sort of spot zeroing in on Res B. So that's up for the council, I think, to tackle that.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll come back to that in the business meeting. Okay. The next public hearing is notice hereby given in accordance with provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5. Quincy Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 12th, on or after 9:00 p.m. in the first floor Boards and Commissions Room, Quincy City Hall, 1305 Hancock Street. The purpose of the hearing is to give interested parties the opportunity to comment on Council Order 2017-22, proposing changes to the City of Quincy zoning ordinance, Title 17, Section 3, Use Regulations, Subsection 3.1.4, Table of Use Regulations, Appendix A, Table of Use Regulations. The proposed amendment would add the following footnote to Appendix A. In Residence B zoning districts, no new building or structure shall be constructed for use as a multifamily dwelling, an apartment house, for apartments, or as attached dwellings or condominiums in any existing building or structure within a Residence B zoning district shall not be arranged, designed, built, altered, converted, rented, or leased to be used so as to result in an increase or an extension of the use to or as a multifamily dwelling, an apartment house, for apartments or attached dwellings for condominium use for a period of 1 year from the date of approval of this section in conformance with Chapter 48 of the Mass General Laws. Okay, anybody wishing to speak on this?
It's me again. Chris Pappas, 146 Hawkins Avenue. Just like I said previously, we recently, my brother and I, recently went through presenting plans to this board. Like I said, they were thoroughly vetted, fairly, I must say. And now we're under a deadline to build. And so there's, I consider it not fair for people that already have approved plans, not just myself, but others, I'm sure. We've registered our plans with the Registry of Deeds. We're currently in the permit process. Again, there's other people just like us, I'm sure. And like I said, it doesn't appear to be fair for a number of reasons. One, because like I said, we have gotten approval from this board. And secondly, I feel like this board has done a very good job in vetting any of the plans that come through here. So that they fit the neighborhood, they're not super extravagant. We had to go through a stormwater plan, we had to go through meeting parking restrictions, that would fit the neighborhood. We followed the letter of the law. We did everything that was asked of us, and now we're going to be stopped from building for a year. I don't even know if both of those ordinances passed, would we even be stopped completely. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly what, how it sounds, but the way it was written, there's no caveat for people like myself. We weren't looking to build anything tremendously big, high, to not fit the neighborhood. So that was the other thing I was going to say. I think that's basically it. I mean, I think both these ordinances, as was kind of mentioned by a couple people on the board, it doesn't reflect well on the board, like the way they were written, because the board does their job. They take everything into account. Setbacks, zoning. I even heard Jay Duca one time say that if we didn't have zoning, no one would be able to build anything here, because all the setbacks, you wouldn't be able to build not one thing. You'd always have to go through zoning. Every single project has to go through zoning here. So both of these ordinances deal with the zoning board and the planning board. And I don't want to repeat myself anymore, but I would be against this ordinance also.
Can I just ask you one quick question? The decision that you recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah.
The date of that decision, do you know if it was prior to the advertising for this?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
About a year ago.
Okay, so, and I'm not an attorney, but I will just tell you my past experiences, that as long as the decision properly recorded was issued prior to the zoning ordinance, the proposed zoning ordinance, then you can petition for a permit. But again, I'm not an attorney.
Right.
That was always my understanding of it.
It was about a year ago.
So well in advance of the advertising, because this would have been advertised in the last 60 days.
And the other thing is, we're under a deadline,
Yeah.
so.
Permits.
And
Building permits
the other
good for
thing
6 months.
what was that?
Building permit's good for 6 months.
Right.
Once you get it.
Right. Once you get it. And we're in the middle of that now.
Good, okay.
The other thing, I just want to mention one last thing. We're here for the other people that may not know what you just said, so that they understand, people kind of, oh, okay, so I would be, so anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
I'll be quick.
John?
John O'Phil, 62 Grand Wall Road. Yeah, I just want to get it on record that I'm against this proposal. I'm against changing of the residential B zoning code. I am for a permanent business zone C change, but we just didn't get that. The zoning needs to change, and I'm not sure who really does the changing of the zoning code, but this really, I don't really understand this part either, because this does make it very confusing. Because in all reality, if you were to approve this, just at the last meeting, there's always things like this. That doesn't make any sense for what just happened earlier in the meeting for you to go against this. So we have to be for development, and then with the housing development, we need more housing. 1978, that's the lead paint thing. I'm a realtor. and it's like we need new inventory in Quincy. So, I mean, I guess the board, maybe a good idea would be maybe you have to knock the house down to not allow people to add on an addition, because I've heard that many times where people are adding on almost like a second house to a house that's already existing. So, just get on record, please, that I'm against the zoning change.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. My motion is not.
No.
You want to read as a department recommendation? Okay.
Sure.
Go just back down. Those are the recommendations for both of these.
Council Order 2016-21, Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 2, District, Subsection 2.1.1. General, Section 4.0, Dimensional Regulations, Subsection 4.3.6. Exceptions to yard regulations, Section 10, Definitions dwelling. Motion to issue a negative recommendation to the City Council and the Mayor on the proposed Council Order 2017-21. So, the beginning of this said 26, do you want me to correct that?
It's 21.
It's 2017, 21, or 26, 21?
It's 21, isn't it?
It's 2017, 21.
2017.
So, in my beginning, I said 2016, right? So it should be, please correct that to 2017,
Yep.
21,
Thank you.
thank you. That will replace the selected language as follows, Section 2.0. Residence B, single family, two family, three family. Section 4, 2, Residence B district. In the Residence B district, no side yard shall be less than 15 feet. Section 10, add. Three-family dwelling means a building designed for occupancy as a residence for three families, each occupying a single dwelling unit. To the City of Quincy zoning ordinance, it's Title 17, Section 2, Districts, Subsection 2.1.1, General, Section 4, Dimensional Regulations, Subsection 4.3.6, Exceptions to Yard Regulations, Section 10, Definitions of dwelling.
So the motion is to vote to a negative recommendation to the City Council. Is there a second to the motion? Second. Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous.
Council Order 2017-22, Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 3, Use Regulations, Subsection 3.1.4, Table of Use Regulations. Appendix A, Table of Use Regulations. Motion to issue a negative recommendation to the City Council and the Mayor on the proposed City Council Order 2017-22 that will add the following footnote to Appendix A. In Residence B zoning districts, no new building or structure should be constructed for use as a multifamily dwelling, an apartment house for apartments, or as attached dwellings or condominiums, and any existing building or structure within a Residence B zoning district shall not be arranged, designed, built, altered, converted, rented, or leased to be used so as to result in an increase or extension of its use to or as a multifamily dwelling, an apartment house for apartments, or attached dwellings or condominium units for a period of 1 year from the date of approval of this section in conformance with the provisions of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws. To the City of Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 3, Use Regulations, Subsection 3.14, Table of Use Regulations, Appendix A, Table of Use Regulations, and to make no changes to this section.
So the recommendation is to issue a negative recommendation to the City Council on this proposed zoning change. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.